your very, very kind words. Thank you so much. And you know, if Mike was smoking something back then, if he still is smoking something, he could run for leader of the NDP. Cheech and Chong so far are the guys that they've got running for the leadership, I think. And although, you know, we shouldn't underestimate the NDP, right? Mike Harcourt has come out and said that there will be some credible candidates coming out for their party. And if we think we're going to have the privilege of running against the guys that are, you know, that are on the margins, or Harry Lally or something like that, I think we are putting ourselves in grave danger and putting the province in grave danger, because the NDP are going to put up a big fight in this next provincial election. And as Mike says, you know, I remember those days back, you know, you're right, I feel like I've learned a lot over the years, but one of the things that I think all of us risk forgetting and unlearning is how bad it was. We can't forget that the 1990s were such a dismal decade for British Columbia. We can't forget that 50,000 people fled the province because of the way they mismanaged our finances and refused to listen to us when we, you know, about the things that were important to us. And we can't go back to that. We need to, though, as a first step, if we want to make sure that we can get elected to government, start listening to people again. And I think part of the challenge that our political party has and that our government has is restoring trust and belief that we are there to actually listen, and not just to foist things on people without even talking to them first. You know, I was proud of the record of our government in the first, you know, I was there for the first 4 years, and the government's now been in for 10, almost 10, and they've left us with a good economic legacy. Our province is on a good track. We've weathered this worst recession in 27 years, as well as can be expected. We're doing quite well in job growth, taxes are low, investment is good. As we move out of the recession, I think we're going to be on a pretty good footing. And overall, you look at the government's record, and it has been pretty good. And then there's the HST. And you know, it's frightening to think that all of the good work that the government did is going to be lost because the BC Liberals have given up or lost the public's trust over the HST. And I've argued on my radio show over this last year that the HST is a good tax for BC, that it's a tax that's going to move our economy forward, it's going to grow jobs, and I've had lots of economists and leaders in the communities, guys like Mike, on the show talking about, I don't know if you've ever been on actually my show though.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, I guess not
oh,
ever.
not yet, not
Yeah,
ever. Be careful what you wish for. Talking about how the tax is good. But the thing is the debate is not about the tax. The debate is about the way the government brought it in. And people feel like the government foisted it on us, I say, because I'm one of the people that felt that way, without actually listening to us or talking to us about it. People felt profoundly disrespected by that. And you compare that to the way they brought in the carbon tax, where they talked about it, they talked to British Columbians about it, shared the plan, went forward to an election. One party took one position, one party took another. There was a vote and one party won. With the HST, they did the exact opposite thing. They went through the election first, and then after the election they said, oh, by the way, we've got this great idea. They imposed it and didn't even bother talking to anybody about it even afterwards for months. So we've got a big problem in restoring public trust. And I think that if we go into this next provincial election with a leader who says, I'm going to listen, and we're all saying that, we're all saying, hey, I'm here to listen, but it's a leader who just a year ago was part of the cabinet that foisted the HST on people, we're going to have trouble squaring that circle. We're going to have trouble explaining how our leader is now someone who's going to listen when they were part of that decision a year ago. And it is going to be a tough election when we get to it. So I'm talking about a government that really wants to listen. And I'm coming up, you know, having been there for a few years, I saw how some of these problems grow up. And one of them is the Premier needs to make sure that all the cabinet ministers are able to do their jobs. That they're invited to come to the cabinet table with different and innovative ideas and really imagine. I mean, we say we want to let business get to work. Well, let's let the cabinet get to work. One person in the room can be really smart, but 20 smart people in the room is even better. And then we need to free up our caucus to start speaking their minds as well. And I think that's, you know, part of the culture of Victoria that has to change. Is we have to say to MLAs, you have the right to come and speak on behalf of your constituents, even if your constituents don't agree with the government. You have the right to bring up private members' bills and have a reasonable hope that they'll pass if they're good ideas. We can't be afraid of disagreement within our own party. We have to allow that to flourish. We have to be respectful in our discussions, and we have to come to conclusions that work, but we shouldn't be afraid of allowing people to speak their minds, because that's how democracy is supposed to work. And in our political party, for those of you who are members already, you know the reason you get involved is because you want to change the government. You want to have a say in the way government works. And so you might have big ideas, which I did when I was 14 years old, and I joined my first political party, and I thought I could go to conventions and I could change the way the government worked. I think that if our party only meets twice every 2 years and we don't really allow policy discussions, we're not allowing people that input. We have to get our political party really active and let people get on the floor of conventions and have real debates. And you know, I don't mind it if cabinet ministers are on the floor of conventions disagreeing with each other. Other political parties do that quite successfully, and we shouldn't be afraid of that in our party. That is how you stay in touch with the public. And I think if we do all those things, we send the message to the public that we want them to be included too. We're going to allow their MLAs to speak on their behalf, and that's why people vote. You go to the polls because you think your MLA is going to listen to what you have to say, and they're going to act on it. And if you don't feel like they're doing that, why would you go and vote? Voter turnout is one of those issues that people ask me about all the time, and I think one of the ways to change that is to improve the level of confidence that your MLA is actually going to act on your behalf. So those are some of the changes I think we need to make. And you know, if you don't make those changes, you end up in decisions like the HST. Why did the government think that was such a great idea? Why did they think people were going to love it when they had never actually spoken to anybody about it? If we are listening all the time, we won't get to that kind of a situation. And if you don't get to that kind of a situation, when you go to an election and you say to people, I'm going to listen, they might actually believe you. The other reason I'm seeking public office is because I have spent these last 4.5 years listening to people, as Mike said, at CKNW, and that's, you know, you just kind of, you hear people from all over the province talk about the things that are really important to them, and it's a whole bunch of issues. Ian has actually been on my show a couple of times talking about the things that are important to him. We've been a real venue for people to be able to share ideas, and I don't always agree with the ideas that people have come forward with. In fact, lots of times I disagree, but I really have learned how important it is to let people come forward and say what they think. And then I can allow at CKNW my listeners to make their decisions about that. Maybe they think I'm off the wall, and they often tell me that over the years they have often told me that I am. But I think everybody's better off from the debate. And I've learned in the process of this that if you listen to people, it changes you, not just them. And I've spent these last 4.5 years also being a parent. And my son Hamish is now 9 years old. And I have spent those years out at the edge of the soccer field in the rain, talking to other parents and connecting with families. And he's a hockey player, so we're in the rink 4 or 5 times a week doing goalie practice or playing games or whatever. And I'm a fundraiser for our Catholic school that he attends. And I've really connected with people, with families, and I've really come to understand how important families are in our society. I profoundly believe that the most important unit of our society is the family, however you choose to define that. Because it is families, and I learned this through the Pink Shirt campaign that I started at CKNW, the anti-bullying work that I've done, that it is families where people learn about compassion and respect and kindness. That's where they learn it, from their parents when their families are functioning well. And there can't be any greater goal for government than making sure that families are functioning, and that families can do their job, and that parents are making sure their children are raised right. Now, I don't think government can do a better job of parenting than parents can. I think when parents are doing a great job, government should get out of the way. We shouldn't be trying to do your job for you. But when families need help, we need to be there for them. And I'll just briefly tell you about a program that I really believed in, that spoke to this. And I learned about how important it was in the anti-bullying campaign that I started. It's called Roots of Empathy, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with it because it's been very active on the North Shore. And what happens in Roots of Empathy is parents, mums and dads, bring their new babies into a classroom, brand new infants, and they let the kids in an elementary school classroom connect with that child. So they learn why the baby cries, for example, and they learn how to stop the baby from crying. You know, it could be because they're hungry or whatever it is that they need. They hold the baby, and they learn how it feels to be the person responsible for somebody who is so incredibly vulnerable. There have been a lot of studies done on roots of empathy across the country, and many of them have been at UBC, and they have discovered that this program teaches kids about compassion. And if you want an anti-bullying program, boy, that is where you start. And there's one story about this that always moved me, and it was a story of a boy in grade 6 at a school in the Lower Mainland, and he was one of those really tough kids who came from a family that didn't function very well. And he was, he really dressed the part too. You can imagine, right? That kid that you might see around the bank machine, and you think maybe I don't want to go take out some money today. He was in leather and the hair and he just, he was one of those kids that looked the part. He was tough. He came from a family that didn't function, and he wanted to act tough. And so this young mom had handed her baby to him, and when she asked for the baby back because it was time to go, he wouldn't give the baby back to her. Which of course naturally is a pretty alarming thing for a new mother of an infant. And so he turned around to her, and she saw that he was crying. And he said to her, "Why do you think it is possible for someone who has never been loved to learn to love somebody else?" What an incredible lesson for somebody who had never felt love or compassion in his life, to learn that he could give it. And the government canceled that program. And it's a program that costs peanuts for government. And I'm talking about a Families First policy in British Columbia, where we take all of the policies of government and we ask, is it good for families or is it bad for families? The kind of policy that would have preserved a little program like that made just a tremendous difference for lots of kids from every socioeconomic level in the province. Because I think families are important. And the most important thing for families is making sure that our policies work for them. Now, of course, the other most important thing for families is a job. We've got to make sure our economy is thriving. We have to make sure that the regions of the province are producing the wealth that we need to make sure that people are working and that families are functioning. Because if you're worried about whether or not you have to go to the food bank, you are probably not looking after your kids the way that you could be. So those are the reasons I'm seeking your support. I believe in families first, and I believe in open government, open and engaged government. I'm going to travel the province, should I be selected as your premier, and I'm going to do town halls in every community 12 times. Not in every community, I'm going to do them 12 times a year, and I'll get to as many communities as I can. We'll probably be doing a lot of open line radio, where I can hopefully host and just take people's questions. And it's going to be hard to do that, because a lot of people will be angry at government. When you're in government, people get mad at you. But that's why politicians don't listen, because they don't want people getting mad at them. Well, I don't think we should be afraid of that. I think we should be willing to have honest debate with people, and if we don't agree, we'll do it respectfully. But at least let's be truthful about it, and let's give people the recognition and the respect to know that they've been heard. I think that's what we're going to need to win this next election. I think we are going to have a convincing argument about why the government is willing to start listening to people again. So ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm asking for your support to become leader of the BC Liberal Party and Premier of British Columbia. I hope that if you haven't already joined, you will do it. It doesn't take long to do. I think Pamela's going to say a few words about that. By the way, I do want to say thank you to Pamela. She is doing so much work on the campaign. I always joke, her primary job is to make me look fat. But she has a real, you try standing beside her at a podium, it's not that easy. She has done just a tremendous amount of work. She was the first woman at CKNW to ever have a reporter's job, and she used to go to press conferences, be the only woman in the room asking questions. And listeners used to complain about the fact that there was a woman on the air, if you can believe it. And she fought her way to the very top of an incredibly tough profession. And when she finally ended her career, or took a hiatus from her career, she, instead of going on vacation, she decided to come and help on this campaign, to help me become Premier of British Columbia. I'm so grateful to her for lending me her reputation and her name in doing this. And for all of you who choose to support me, I want to say I'm grateful to you too, because I know that when you go out there and you ask somebody to take out a membership in the BC Liberal Party, you are putting my name with yours. So I promise you this, I won't be perfect, but I will do my best to honor that and to make you proud of me should I be selected leader of this party. Thank you so very much for being here today.